And they stayed there for 3 hours for no special reason, except they must have known how important it was for the film team to get good footage of them. And they did everything. They played, well, you'll see it in the film. And I believe that that film team got more good stuff in 3 hours than other film teams have managed to get in 3 weeks. So it was very, very magical. And again, what was called Jane Magic by the team. We got very close. They followed me around here and there for a year to get this film made. And they kept talking about Jane Magic because things suddenly began to work. And this one piece of Jane Magic, go back to this waterfall. It was the perfect lighting at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when the sun came through the forest canopy and lit up this water so that it shone. And so they got this crane all the way up the valley. And they were there getting it prepared, getting it set for 4 o'clock. But the only problem was it was raining. And by the time I met them there at 3:30, it wasn't actually raining, but there were heavy clouds everywhere you looked. The sky was grey. And the cameraman kept saying, "Don't worry, it'll still look lovely," but I knew he was very disappointed. And I said, "Well, we've still got half an hour. I'm sure the sun will come out." And just at about 4:30, when we were just all set for this scene, everyone went, "Ah!" because suddenly the sun came out. It didn't make sense, but suddenly the clouds had moved away and there was the sun. So that was a real example of Jane Magic. And you'll see that in the film. So anyway, I want to leave a bit of time for you to ask some questions. You must have some. Yes?
Dr. Goodall, we at the American School of Warsaw will welcome you with open arms tomorrow, thanks to our Roots and Shoots Club here. And I wanted to tell the audience that tomorrow we will post the information on Roots and Shoots on the American School of Warsaw's website, and we will be live streaming your presentation. And if you go to the website and look at our link, all of you can join us in that presentation. My question, Dr. Goodall, is can you tell us one thing that you have witnessed in the last 5 to 10 years that gives you the most hope in the work that you do, and the one thing in the last 5 or 10 years that you're most concerned about?
Okay, well, the thing that gives me most hope, it's hard to choose because there's a lot. One reason for hope that is very inspiring is in the film, and it's standing where 6 years ago I looked out over completely bare hills, and now trees are up to 20, 30 foot high because of our Take Care program. It's in the film, you'll see it. So that's one reason for hope. Then I wrote this book called Hope for Animals and Their World. And it's not in Polish. And if anybody here knows a publisher who might be interested, because apparently, basically none of my books are available in Polish. And even in the library, there's only 2, and they've been borrowed out. So people can't find out any of these things. Anyway, Hope for Animals and Their World is about species rescued from the very brink of extinction. And I had a whole year or more of meeting and talking. I mean, I was doing my normal work. This is in between lectures, you understand. Talking with people who said, I will not let this animal species become extinct. And sometimes people laughed at them and said, well, how can you possibly save it? But this book is all positive stories. Every single story is about a species that would have become extinct forever and has now been given a second chance. And that's incredibly reason for hope. But, you know, my greatest reason for hope is that everywhere I go, there are groups of young people with shining eyes wanting to tell Dr. Jane what they've been doing to make the world a better place. And because Roots and Shoots is youth-driven, youth thinking of their own projects, there's amazing imagination around the world. And the difference that these young people are making is huge. And this has to be a reason for hope, along with their commitment and energy and dedication and enthusiasm. And, you know, we'll never give up. oh, everywhere I go and I talk to kids, no, we're never going. Yes, we're going to change the world. No, it's not too late. So I could go on, but those are probably the main reasons for hope for me. Oh, you said ask for the worst thing. Well, I don't know. It's pretty hard to pick today. There's so much gloom and doom going on. You know, shrinking of water supplies, heating up of the changing weather patterns, the continued growth of human populations, the seemingly spiraling increase of poverty. I don't know. Take your pick. The main thing is that we go on tackling them in our own little space and do what we can where we are. Yes?
They are mostly concerned about themselves and their families, especially in Poland, because we're now in the time when we think about ourselves. So I would like to ask you a personal question. Where do you find the energy to talk about those things, and how do you support your own enthusiasm for changing people's minds? Thank you.
Well, I've already really given you part of the answer. It's the young people I meet everywhere, because they're not giving up. And they are struggling to change things wherever they are. And because they're now in 127 countries with 16,000, 17,000 active groups, a group averaging maybe 30, sometimes it's 2 children, sometimes it's a whole school, you can't help but. And so much, you know, they're very inventive and they've got such good ideas. And they're so positive. So that's one. But I also have the opportunity to meet extraordinary people. I call it the indomitable human spirit, the people who won't give up. And that is inspiring, and that gives you hope. And the reason I wrote Hope for Animals and Their World is because we hear so much of the doom and gloom, and yet there is so much positive going on that we don't hear about. And I wanted to pull that together in one place. And now the book got too long, so I couldn't talk about the plant world, the plant kingdom. So that's the book I'm doing now. And in a way, this is even more inspiring, the resilience of nature. So you take the largest totally destroyed ecosystem on this planet is in China near the Tibet border. It's an area as big as France. And I saw photos of what it looked like 15 years ago, like the surface of the moon. And now go and look at it. It's been documented by a friend of mine as it changes and becomes a little bit green and becomes greener. And now it's lush and there are fruit trees and there's an area set aside for conservation. And the children, the young people are no longer leaving. They're coming back to work because it has been restored. That's one example. And I find those examples everywhere. Well, are you involved in Roots and Shoots?
I'm not.
No, well, go and speak to the international school.
Probably I will.
And they will involve you in what they're doing, and that'll change your mind.
Thanks.
Yes?
Concerns? Okay, thank you. Speaking about concerns, what do you think about the plans for building a highway in Tanzania that would cross the Serengeti? And what? Because I'm not very sure what's the current status of the plans and what are the chances of actually picking another route?
Well, I wish you would ask me this question in 2 or 3 weeks. We have a big delegation. The Jane Goodall Institute is taking a leading role in approaching the president, trying to find a win-win-win situation. We shan't know the result of this, and it's a very high-powered delegation that's going to be speaking with him It's a mixture of World Bank, European Union, various NGOs, not to apply the pressure which keeps being put on him, like if you don't do this, the international community will shun you, which is just making him not able to lose face, but to approach in such a way that, you know, one can understand that it's your sovereign country, but here's ways that we could benefit so many people if we built the road around the Serengeti. But that's happening right now. I don't know what the answer will be.
And do you think if there's anything general public in Europe?
Well, we'll let you know if there is. But at the moment, that's been counterproductive. It's all this pressure from outside that makes some people feel, well, it's not their problem, it's mine. You know, so.
Okay.
Mentioned the inordinate fondness for beetles. What would you say to the question? What did your research tell you about Creator, if one exists?
Well, I don't think my research tells me very much about the Creator. I think my time in the forest is more to the point. But, you know, I grew up, my grandfather was a parson. We went to church. We weren't a particularly religious family. But I just assumed there was a God, and I used to feel I was close to God, the stars, the sky, the birds, when I climbed up my tree in the garden. I have my own tree, still there, still live in the same house when I live anywhere. And when I was out in the forest, all those months and months and months by myself, I could not but feel the presence of some great spiritual power. I don't know what to call that great spiritual power. But I felt it very strongly, and I felt that it was greater than me, and I felt that surely a spark of that great spiritual power was in all living things. And we, wanting to name everything, call the spark in us a soul. We call the great spiritual power God or Allah or whatever the different religions are. You better wait for the mic, because she's trying to get it to you.
Okay, my name is Pavel. Compared to previous question, my question will be more light. The first question is, you look as a person who can do what you want. You can change what you want, and you can bring new ideas. And I would like to ask you what was easier, what is easier for you, to work with animals, with chimpanzees, or with the people, with the human like today? And second question.
Let me answer that one. Obviously, it was much easier to work with the chimpanzees. Much easier.
I can imagine. And second question, what I said, you can bring any ideas. Do you have any new ideas? What you are looking for?
New ideas? Well, really, you know, all the ideas are kind of out there. It's just a question of how do we more quickly grow this critical mass of youth that goes out into becoming the next teachers and parents and doctors and politicians and so forth. How do we grow this more quickly? And, you know, every day there are new ideas, like talking with the Kopernik Science Center today and talking about a partnership that could introduce hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young Polish children and students to Roots and Shoots, which would help us grow our family, which would help to have a growing understanding among the young people in Poland that they are part of a world scene, that you can't forever live in isolation from the rest of the world, and that things have to change. It can't go on as usual, because if it does, there'll be nothing left for our great-great-grandchildren.